Hello friends, I'm George, the nice smelling gentleman. Welcome back to the channel guys. I hope that all of you are doing good. Now today's video is going to be a very serious one. Today I'm going to show you a list of 10 cheap fragrances that are great to wear while watching a fragrance top 10 video. Now I'm joking, but I'm joking about the seriousness of the video, but the subject of today's video is going to really be 10 fragrances that are great to wear while watching a fragrance top 10 video. All the fragrances that I'm going to show you in this video will be scents that have been very hyped up in the past year and a half or so. And you know, that's the reason that you probably know about these fragrances, simply because you watch YouTube videos and you've watched other fragrance reviewers, me including, talk about all these scents. And also I'm going to tell you whether I think the hype of those scents is actually real, whether they are actually worth the hype. I'm going to start with a fragrance from the house of Lattafa that's called LFA Assad. Now this is one of the first fragrances that actually made the Lattafa name known on the Western markets. This thing, of course, is a clone of Dior Sauvage Elixir, one of the first Elixir clones to hit the markets. And my honest opinion about this fragrance is that it's worth the hype. It will get you quite close to the original scent, maybe minus some of the spiciness, some of the sharpness that you get out of the original fragrance, but still scent-wise pretty close and actually very enjoyable scent. I've had this for almost 2 years now, a year and a half, over a year and a half, and I can say that this thing only got better with time. Maceration has really helped with this fragrance, you know, the scent and the performance. It's a great performer, it's a compliment getter, and I really think it's worth the hype. And another good thing about this fragrance is that it's almost always in stock, so unlike some other hyped up scents that I'm going to show you a little bit later, prices of Assad have remained stable, and to this day this is a great alternative to Sauvage Elixir, and it's also a very cheap fragrance to this day. And I think it's worth the hype, and I think this is a great fragrance to wear while watching a fragrance video. The next scent that I'm going to show you comes from a Lattafa sub-brand that's called Maison Alhambra, and the fragrance is called Kmet Angel. This thing was one of the first real clones of Kilian's Angel Share. Again, it received a lot of hype, and I think that the scent itself is deserving of the hype that it got, but the pricing of this thing, that sometimes you can run into, you know, prices of like 80, 100, over $100 or euros, I think is absolutely nuts. And at that price point, I think this is an absolute no deal. On its own, it's a great scent, very good, clone of Kilian's Angel Share. I think to this day, this is the closest thing in the opening that you can get to Angel Share. You get that strong boozy vibe that you get out of the original scent. The dry down is a little bit different, but still a very good scent on its own. Hyped up for a good reason, but the prices that this thing sells at sometimes are absolutely unreasonable, and I don't think it deserves the hype, at those high price points. Kismet Angel is the second fragrance in this video that is great for wearing while watching a YouTube fragrance video. The next fragrance that I'm going to show you comes from the house of Afnan, and it's called 9 PM. Again, like with the Lattafa Assad, this is probably the fragrance from Afnan that actually made Afnan known as a brand on the Western markets. A great clone of Jean-Paul Gaultier's Ultra Mauve. Slightly different, a bit of a twist. You don't get a pear note in the opening of this thing. You get you're rather getting an apple note that gives this a little bit of a fresher take on the Ultra Mauve DNA. But other than that, it's got the same sweet vanilla. You got some of the musks. You also got the lavender. Some mint as well. A great fragrance. Fantastic performer, fantastic projector. Really a youthful scent that also brings a lot of compliments. It's a great clubbing type of scent as well. A fantastic fragrance that I think deserves all the hype that it gets. Also, like with Assad, this thing is readily available, so prices have not really gotten to unreasonable heights, and to this day I think this is a very good alternative to Jean-Paul Gaultier's Ultra Mauve. The third fragrance in this video that's great for wearing while watching an fragrance YouTube video, 9 p.m. from Afnan. The next fragrance comes from the house of Latafa, and it's called Badia Al Oud, or Oud for Glory, a clone of Oud for Greatness from Initio. This is one of those scents that, in my opinion, is undeserving of all the hype that it gets. I'll give you a few reasons why now. The first reason is sort of a personal. I've never been the biggest fan of the original scent, and neither of this thing. As a clone, this is actually pretty close to what you get with the original fragrance, but that mix of quite a lot of spices, some ouds, has never really worked for me. That's the first reason. It's more of a personal reason. But the second reason is because I never really got good performance out of this fragrance. For some reason, maybe it's a skin thing, but this never really worked for me performance wise. It's a decent performer, but not as good as people were claiming and hyping this up. The fragrance that I'm going to show you comes from the house of Armaf, and it's called Club de Nuit Intense Man, and in this case I have the EDP variant here. Probably the best known clone when it comes to fragrances, especially men's fragrances. And that of course is a clone of Creed Aventus. This is a citrusy take on the Creed Aventus DNA, but it's actually, the opening is a little bit different. The dry down is pretty close to what you get with the original scent. It has fantastic performance and projection. It's super versatile. It's a compliment getter. It's just a fragrance that works. And I think this is, very deserving of all the hype that it got in the past, and that it still gets in the current time. A super versatile scent that again just works and is a compliment getter, and I think this is a great fragrance to actually wear while watching a fragrance YouTube video. Club de Nuit Intense Man from Armaf. The next fragrance that is great for wearing while watching a YouTube fragrance video, and also is deserving of all the hype that it got and it still gets, comes from the house of Afnan, and it's called Tome Blue, a great clone of Bulgari's Tiger. I absolutely love this scent. Again, another super versatile fragrance like the one that I previously showed you from Armaf. This thing has a super nice juicy grapefruit note in the opening. You got some other citruses, a bit of spices. The dry down is all about the musk and the woodiness with some amber sweetness. Fantastic performer, fantastic projector, super versatile, another compliment getter, and just an all year round type of scent. A Dunbridge type of scent. You can call it whatever you want, but this thing just works again like Club de Nuit Intense Man, and it's also deserving of all the hype, and it's also a great fragrance to wear while watching a fragrance YouTube video. Tome Blue from Afnan. Next hyped up fragrance in this video that you might consider wearing while watching a fragrance YouTube video comes from the house of Nautica, and it's called Nautica Voyage. Probably their most famous fragrance of this brand, and a fragrance that's seen quite a lot of hype. This used to be constantly mentioned when it comes to either cheap fragrances or fresh summer scents. Pretty much everybody out there has talked about this one. On its own, it's actually not a bad little fragrance. It's a nice freshie that has let's call it decent longevity. With this one you'll smell like a freshly cut cucumber, and I mean that in a good way. A great starter fragrance. It's a pretty youthful scent. It's versatile, but at the same time probably I would imagine younger guys wearing this one. It's very affordable, very cheap, and at the same time has a decent quality, and as I said, a great starter fragrance. A great fragrance to start your collection, especially when it comes to fresh scents. So the next fragrance that you might consider wearing while watching a YouTube video, Nautica Voyage. The next one again comes from the house of Maison Alhambra, and it's called the Tux. This is a clone of YSL Tuxedo. Another very hyped up fragrance, one of the first tuxedo clones to hit the markets, and it saw so much hype that it was constantly sold out, and prices were very high, again unreasonably high. On its own, a great fragrance. I really like this one. It's a very nicely done clone of Tuxedo, but when this is not readily available in stock, prices can be so ridiculously high that I would really vouch against getting this thing for a lot of money. Again, on its own, not a bad fragrance, nicely done clone of Tuxedo with decent performance and projection, and it's at its normal price tag. It's actually a pretty good deal and a pretty good alternative to Tuxedo. Next fragrance that I'm going to show you, that's a lot of hype, and for me was it didn't really deserve that amount of hype. Comes from the house of Lattafa, and it's called Faar, or as it's known in most places, Faar Black. Now this is a clone of YSL EDP. Now I'll tell you my two reasonings why I don't like this one and I don't think it deserves the hype. The first one is more of a personal one. It has to do with the actual scent profile. I'm not the biggest fan of the original scent, so I'm not the biggest fan of this you know, take the Lattafa's take here, although this is a little bit sweeter, and I even might prefer this a little bit over to, you know, compared to the original fragrance. And the second main reason why I don't think this is deserving of all the hype is because of its performance. I had this bottle for more than a year and I never really got good performance out of it. It's a little bit above average, but nothing more than that. And the last fragrance in this video, a fragrance that I think it deserves a lot of the hype that it got, and it still gets, again from the house of Lattafa, the LFA Camera. Probably one of the most famous scents when it comes to the house of Lattafa, and a great fragrance on its own. People were calling this a clone of Angel Share. I wouldn't call it that. I've never called it a clone of Angel Share. It's more like a, you know, a take on that DNA. It lacks the boozy vibe that you get out of, the strong boozy vibe that you get out of Angel Share. This has a boozy note in it, but it's plays more of a support role. It's sweeter compared to the original scent, but on its own, it's a fantastic fragrance. Perfectly unisex, beast mode performer, you know, a compliment getter. What else you want to know? You really need to like sweet fragrances though in order to like this one, but I think this deserves all the hype that it gets, and this is a great fragrance to wear while actually watching a fragrance YouTube video. The last fragrance in this video, the LFA Camera. So guys, in today's video I showed you 10 cheap hyped up fragrances that are great for wearing while actually watching a fragrance YouTube video. I hope that you found this video interesting. If you did, give it a like, and I also hope that you're going to join me in the next one. And until then, stay safe and bye bye.